Hello there, Dylan at Rabbit GPS here. Today I'm going to walk you through our Intro to the Rabbit GPS mobile app webinar. We're going to cover sort of the ins and outs of the app. We're going to talk about how to find existing routes, how to navigate routes, how to record your activity, how to create routes of your own, and cover a few other cool tips and tricks that might be useful to know about along the way. We're going to start on the home page, and out of all the stuff that I cover today, we'll spend probably the least amount of time here. Most of what's here is relatively self-explanatory, but there are a few things that are worth knowing about. If you look at the top of the screen, you're going to see our quick access menu bar, which allows you to navigate away from the home screen to another page in our app quickly and easily based on what you need to do. Just underneath that quick access menu bar, you're going to see the last 30 days of recorded ride stats. I promise I do actually ride my bike quite a bit, but this is a test account, so it doesn't have all of my rides in here. But basically, every time you head out and record an activity, whether that's by tapping the record button at the bottom of the screen or by navigating a route, side note here, when you navigate a route, you're simultaneously recording your activity. At the end of each session of riding, when you finish and you save it, we'll upload that activity to your account and we'll generate this bar graph so you can quickly and easily see some of your ride stats. Right now it defaults to the last 30 days, but I believe you can drill down to see a more specific time duration, like 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. You can even look at your career totals from as long as you've been a Ride with GPS user in bar graph form, if that's helpful. Just underneath that, you'll see a feature because if you've recently looked at a certain ride or a certain route, you're able to see it listed here so you can quickly view it again, which is just really nice and convenient if you are looking at a lot of different stuff all the time and sort of forgot about that last route that you looked at and wanted to see it quick and easy. Recently viewed routes, great way to do that. Underneath that, you're going to see My Activity. This is going to show you recent routes that I've created or recent activities that I've recorded. Over on the left-hand side here, you'll see Following. And this is where I can see what everybody else I'm following in Ride with GPS is up to. But that's pretty much it. I told you it'd be relatively fast. We're not going to spend too much time here. What I would like to do now is take us into the Explore feature, which is what you're going to use to search for existing routes by area of interest or near you based on a whole bunch of different riding criteria. We'll help limit down what we see based on what we actually plan on riding. You can get to Explore by tapping the Explore magnifying glass icon in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. And when I do that, it takes me into the Explore screen. I see a bunch of red route lines all over the place. I see a bunch of green start icons, and I see my location shown by that blue dot in the middle of my map. And right now, without any filtering turned on, we're just showing you the most popular routes that run through the area. But chances are, if you're looking for an existing route, you have a pretty specific idea of the type of riding that you want to do. And that's where our filtering options come into play. So if you look at towards the top of my map here, you're going to see all these white boxes, and those are the search filters that we're going to use. I'm going to run you through a mock search so you can see exactly how these function. Let's start by tapping Activity. This is our activity types filter, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different activity types listed in here that you can choose from. Cycling is what I'm going to choose today because that's sort of like a generic catch-all for all types of riding. But as you see, there's a whole bunch of different types you can choose from. So I'll hit save. And each time you turn on a filter, we're going to fetch routes that match the criteria that you're plugging in. Next, I'm going to go to length. I tap my length filter. It opens up this little slider bar at the bottom of the screen where I can set my low end and high end of my search bracket. So let's say this weekend I'm thinking about doing a route that's between 20 and 40 miles in length. I'll move the low end of my slider to 20 and the high end of my slider to 40. And once that's set, I hit save on the right-hand side. And now that filter is applied. Next, let's go to elevation, and that's referring to the cumulative elevation gain for a route. If I'm doing, a 20 to 40 mile route in Portland, I'd expect to be climbing at least 1,000 feet. And at most, if I'm training, I'll say 4,000 feet. That's if I'm being like super mean to myself. So I'll hit save. And now that search filter is applied. Next one is surfaces. And this is referring to the surface type breakdown of the routes we're looking for. If I was taking out my carbon road bike, which does not like unpaved roads, I'd probably select paved and mostly paved. That would return solidly like road bike style routes to me. If I was taking out my gravel bike, which can handle more varied terrain, I'd probably select those middle three. If I was taking out my bike packing bike or my mountain bike, I'd probably select those bottom two, mostly paved, mostly unpaved. But just for fun here, let me choose those middle three, save, And then lastly, we'll do route type. And this is referring to the structure of routes we're looking for. I pretty much always go for a loop route. I like that I can start and end them in the exact same place. And a loop also ensures that I'm not riding over the same roads too many different times. But you can also do out and back. And that would be a route that takes you from point A to point B, all the way back to point A, likely using the same roads out as back in. Under that, we have point to point. This would be a point A to point B route. So if I did that, I need to plan on getting picked up or taking public transit home. But just for fun here, I'll select loop and save. Okay, so everything I'm now seeing on the screen matches the search criteria I plugged in, which is great. One of the issues I have, though, is that all of these routes are being overlaid on the map at once, which makes it hard for me to discern whether one of the individual routes shown here is something I want to do or not. I like to see just one route at a time. To do that, if you look towards the bottom of my screen, you'll see this little results nearby option. Just above that, there's this little horizontal gray line. If I drag that up from the bottom of the screen, I now see just one route at a time. And if I swipe to the right, that reveals the next consecutive route, so I can get a closer view of it and see if it's one that I want to do or not. This route, the NLF Forest Park route, looks pretty cool to me. Just underneath it, you can see, just underneath the title rather, you can see a little bit of information. This route is 22.5 miles in length. It's got about 2,200 feet of elevation gain, and it's a mostly unpaved route. This looks good. Maybe I want to save it for later, so this weekend I can have it readily available to navigate when I'm ready. So I'm going to tap the title. This takes you to the route show page, which is just a more up-close view of this one specific route and allows you to get more detail and information on the route that we're looking at. Just above the elevation profile, and actually, sorry, let me back this up. If you look at the route line and the elevation profile itself, you'll see that it goes from this solid red color to this like striped segment. The solid red indicates a paved segment. The striped section indicates an unpaved segment. And just above the elevation profile, you can see the percentage breakdown of this route by surface type, which is just nice information to have at your disposal. So if I want to save this route for later so I don't have to search for it all over again when I'm actually ready to ride, we're going to pin it to a Ride with GPS account. To do this, you tap the save button at the bottom of the screen. When you do that, this little message pops up that says, hey, you can now find this in the pin section of your route library. So if you think of routes in terms of ownership, if you don't create a route, it's not sitting on your Ride with GPS account. You don't own it. But if you find a cool route that someone else made, you need to get it to your Ride with GPS account so you can use it when you need it. Pinning is the function that will do that. When you pin a route, it takes it from Explore and it sticks it in a special spot in your route library so you can find it when you need it. Don't worry if you don't know where the pin route section is. I'll show you how to get there in just a little bit. So let me hit the back button in the upper left. And I want to see that full map with all of the routes overlaid on top at once. So I'm going to drag this little horizontal gray line down from the middle. Zoom out, and there we are. I'm seeing this whole area. Now let's say I'm interested in seeing routes in the Hood River area, which is just east of here. If I pan my map over, so it's now resting over Hood River, towards the bottom of my screen here, you'll see this little search this area box, and if I tap that, we're now searching the Hood River area and applying all of those same search filters to this spot. Let's say I actually want to look for routes in Seattle, Washington. Excuse me. If I head to the search box at the top of the screen and type in Seattle, Washington. Okay, there we go. I'm going to tap it. And we jump to Seattle and apply all of those same search filters there. So that's a quick once over of the Explore feature, which is what you would use to search for existing routes in an area of interest or existing routes near you. The next thing I want to do is take us into our route library so we can actually see how some of this stuff is organized so we know exactly where to find what we need when it's actually time to use it. To get to our library, if we look at the bottom of my screen, just on the right-hand side, you'll see a little library icon. If I tap that, I'm now sitting in my route library. Now, if you look at the very top of my screen, you're going to see that there are 3 different tabs listed. I have my Activities tab, I have my Routes tab, and then I have my Collections tab. And now I'd like to talk about what's held in each one of these tabs and the properties available with each of them. So activities. Activities are a record of what you did and where you went. Whether you're heading out and you're hitting that record button at the bottom middle of the screen or navigating a route, At the end of that session, once you finish and save it, it's going to appear under your activities tab so you can access it later on and take a look at your activity, view your stats, all that sort of stuff. Routes, on the other hand, you can think of as a plan for an activity. Routes are going to have cue sheets associated with them, and these are what you would actually use for navigation. So to quickly recap here, activities, just a record of what you did and where you went. Activities do not have a cue sheet and therefore are not navigable. Routes, that's what you actually navigate. And primarily what you see in here, I want you to think of as being routes that you personally created. Now there is a way for you to take an activity and turn it into a route that can be navigated. The tool that we use here is called our trace tool, and let me show you how it works. So I'm going to tap this first activity I have at the top of my screen here to see it in full view. Normally, if this was a route that I could navigate, there'd be a little navigate button in the lower left, but there isn't one because there's no navigation. This is just an activity. If I tap the plan button in the lower right-hand corner, I get a little prompt to auto trace route. All this is really saying is, hey, do you want to turn this activity into a route you can navigate? I do. So tap OK. We load that activity into our route planner. It's being traced, so the system is going around tracing the recorded line and automatically generating a cue sheet for it as it goes, which turns it into a route that you can navigate. This looks good to me. I tap I understand. And then in the lower right-hand corner, I tap done, save, and I'll call this test trace 1. I hit save in the upper right. And this route is now saved to my route library so I can navigate it later on. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner now, there's an orange navigate button so I can actually navigate this route. So that's activities, that's routes. The next feature or the next tab is collections. And I want to draw our attention to the top two items. The first is the pin section. If I tap my pin route library, I see that NL4 Forest Park route that I found earlier in Explorer sitting right at the very top of this list. So again, when you find a route that someone else made and you want to save it for later, pin that route to your RivaGPS account and it'll appear in the pin section of your route library, right where I'm showing you here. So one other thing that I want to say, this route takes us into Forest Park, which, if you haven't figured it out already, I'm based in Portland, Oregon. This takes you into Forest Park, which is a beautiful area for bike riding. It's heavily forested, as the name sort of tells you. And it's almost all unpaved, and it's a super fun place to ride near town. The thing is that because this is really forested, it takes you outside of cell data access. And if I want to make sure that I can navigate this route, even if I don't have connection to cell network, I need to download it for offline use. To do that, I tap the save button at the bottom of the screen. And then I tap where it says download for offline at the top. I'm going to tap that. And as you can see right now, it's already done. It was downloading for offline use. That progress bar disappeared. So now this route is officially downloaded for offline use. Let me hit the back button in the upper left. I'm going to hit it one more time. So we're back on our collections tab, and just underneath pin, you'll see offline. And if I tap offline, that NL4 Forest Park route is sitting in there. So when you download a route for offline use, you're taking the route, the map, the turn-by-turn directions from our servers, and you're storing it locally on your phone, which means that even if you don't have access to cell data, you're still going to be able to navigate this route, see where you are in real time, get all those turn-by-turn directions. The added benefit of downloading a route for offline use is you can actually navigate it with your phone in airplane mode. Normally, when you don't have airplane mode turned on, your phone's going to try to connect to cell data, even if that connection isn't there or it's tenuous, and that uses a lot of battery. Airplane mode prevents your phone from doing that, and it's going to drastically extend the battery life of your phone while using our app for navigation. My little anecdote for this is I do a lot of bike packing, and if I download a route for offline use and I navigate it with my phone in airplane mode, I can usually get between 8 and 10 hours of navigation on a single battery charge. So it makes a very significant bit of difference. And if I hit the back button here, anything you see in your offline tab, that can be accessible for offline use. Now, there is one other way for you to think of offline maps. So I've shown you how to download individual routes for offline use, but you can actually download a region for offline use. When you do that, any route in your route library or your pin section or whatever is going to be automatically accessible for offline use, sort of all at once. Let me show you how this works here. So if I want to download an offline region, I tap More in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. From the menu options here, I'm going to tap where it says Offline Maps, about halfway down in the middle of my screen. Let me get rid of this existing one, pretend you don't see that. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to tap New Offline Map. And that opens up this bounding box here, which is focusing over Oregon, or really over my current location. Now you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can move this map around so it more accurately encompasses the full area that you want to download. But real quick, if you look towards the bottom of my screen here, you see the map size, but you can also see that 8 routes in my library are going to be included within this download, which is great because I don't have to worry about individually downloading routes. Any route included within this bounding box that we're setting up here is going to be automatically accessible for offline use. And even if they're not sitting in my library now, if I was to find a route later on and explore and pin that to my RobbitGPS account or stick it in my library, that too would be available for offline use without me having to do anything extra. So from here, you just tap download in the lower right-hand corner, and then this map will start to download. And once it's finished, any route within this bounding box here will be automatically available for offline use, which is a super nice feature, especially if you plan on riding in the same areas relatively frequently. All right, so let me hit the back button here, head back into my library. So yeah, that's generally how everything's set up. We've talked about the difference between rides, routes, all that stuff. I think it'd be useful now to talk about how navigation actually works. And I'm going to show this to you 2 different ways. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you start navigation for a planned route and you're sitting at the designated start point. I'm also going to show you what it's like when you start navigation for a planned route and you are not at the designated start point. So let's take a look at this second from the top test route I have. I tap the title to see it in full view. We're looking at the route show page for this, which shows the route in its entirety. You can see the green icon is where this route starts. The red icon up top is where this route ends. The red line is the route line I'm going to follow. And that blue dot is my current location in relation to the route. And as you can see, I'm sitting at the start. I'm ready to ride. So I'm going to tap navigate in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. All right. That takes me right into the navigation screen. I'm going to give my phone just a quick second to get a solid GPS lock. And while it's doing that, I'm going to get a quick sip of water here. All right, so I'm taken immediately into the navigation screen. And if you look at the top of my screen, you're going to see the first cue being displayed. It says in about 1,100 feet, turn right onto Southeast Knapp Street. If I had my volume turned up right now, you'd actually hear our app say, in 1,100 feet, turn right onto Southeast Knapp Street. Once I make that first turn, the next consecutive cue is going to visually display and verbally announce, and that'll continue to update as I ride along in real time, so I won't be missing any of these turns as I actually go. One thing I want to call out here is your map you can interact with it. So I can zoom in, I can zoom out to see the route in its entirety. I can zoom in nice and close to get a super up close view. One thing I'll mention here is I'm not actually riding my bike right now, but if I was, you'd see my little blue dot moving along that route line with a red tail forming behind me. The route will remain blue in front of me, showing what I have not yet done versus what I have done, which is really nice. My cues temporarily disappeared for now, but if you look at the top of my screen, you'll see this gray banner that says auto pause, move to record. That's our auto pause feature. It's super nice. Basically, if during your recording or navigation session you stop riding, our app will automatically pause the recording. Once you start riding again, the app will automatically unpause the recording. This is really nice because if you do stop, you don't need to worry about manually pausing or unpausing. We'll take care of all of that for you, so you have a nice, accurate set of ride stats, and you have a very clean-looking recording line as you go through. By default, the map is going to orient with north at the top of the screen, regardless of your direction and heading. Some people, like myself, really like that. Other people don't like it really much. They want it to orient in the direction of travel. If that's you, if you look towards the bottom left-hand side of my map, there is a compass icon with north pointing up. If you tap that icon, it turns black, which means that auto rotate is now enabled. So the map is going to orient in the actual direction of travel. Since we're using your phone's GPS, it's not a magnetic compass. You do have to actually be moving a little bit in order for the map to correctly orient itself. But even now, sitting still, standing inside, it's doing a pretty good job of figuring out exactly which way I'm facing and orienting correctly. If you find you don't like that, just tap that icon once more. And now north will always be at the top of the screen regardless of your direction and heading. At the bottom of my screen, you're going to see some ride metrics being displayed. Things like distance, speed, durations, distance left, ETA. These metrics are entirely customizable. So, for example, if you look in the lower left-hand side of that metrics display, Let's say that distance left is not something I care about. Maybe I'd rather see climb left instead. If I take my finger and I long press, hold down on where it says distance left, that pulls up a list of all of the available metrics you can choose from. So if I'd rather see climb left, there's the climb left metric. Let me tap that. And where distance left was, climb left now appears. You have 2 pages of metrics. Both are entirely customizable, so you can make this look exactly the way that you want it to, based on the metrics that are important to you. Next thing I wanted to mention is that we have this really cool elevation feature. If you look at the bottom middle of my screen where that orange pause button is, just to the left of there, you'll see the elevation option. And if I tap that, you'll see my elevation profile being shown in real time. If you look in the far left-hand corner, you'll see my little blue dot, and that's me on this elevation profile. If I was moving along, you'd see that blue dot moving along there as well. If I expand the elevation profile by tapping the up arrow on the right-hand side and tap once more as the prompt is telling me, that reveals the elevation scrubber. And I can move this anywhere along my route that I want to get more information on that specific spot where it's resting. So where my elevation scrubber is right now is at mile 8 miles in on my route at an elevation of 449 feet. And by the way, I'm referencing the data that's at the very top of the elevation profile. It's at a grade of 6.6%. And then that last metric is estimated time. And it's saying that it's going to take me 37 minutes and 26 seconds to get to that specific. Little side note here, that estimated time feature is really useful. What our app is doing is looking at your past ride recordings and saying, hey, based on what you've done in the past, we think it's going to take you this long to do the route that you have loaded up here. This feature is really cool because it actually updates dynamically. So let's say that most of my ride recordings are done on my Carbon road bike when I've gotten a ton of sleep and I'm feeling super fresh. Except today I'm taking out my loaded bikepacking bike and I also didn't sleep that well the night before. Our app will see that I'm not moving as quickly as I normally do, and it'll adjust that estimated time dynamically based on my current fitness level, direction, and heading, all that stuff. This is a really nice feature. Super nice to see sort of what you have ahead of you, but be careful. There's nothing like climbing uphill all day to turn this on and realize that you still have a ton of climbing left. So use it sparingly, but know it's there. It's super helpful. So let me collapse the elevation profile by hitting the down arrow on the right-hand side, and then I'll take us back into metrics. Now I wanted to talk about a few sort of on-the-fly routing options that you have in the app. So while you're actually riding, if you need to change things up, there's a couple of things you can do. In the upper right-hand corner of my map, you'll see this white circle with an S-curve made up of dashed lines. I'm sharing from an iPhone right now. Users, instead of seeing that S-curve, you're going to see a white circle with 3 horizontal dots. If you tap that, you have a couple of options. Get directions. That allows you to input an address or a place name of some place you want to navigate to, and we'll quickly build a route that'll get you from where you are to your new destination using the roads that are safest for cycling. Route back to start. Let's say halfway in on your route, it starts raining and you just want to get back to where you parked the car. Route back to start will take you from where you are back to the designated start point as quickly and safely as it can. Route to home will route you from your current location to your home address. Clear route removes the route from your navigation screen and just allows you to record your activity without turn-by-turn prompts. So there's a couple of different options if you need to change things up on the fly. One other feature I really like is our quick nav feature. And I wouldn't advise everybody does this, but I will do this sometimes while I'm actually riding my bike without actually pulling over. Let's say you have a change of heart and you want to do something different when you're riding through. Instead of heading to Rocky Butte like I originally planned, I actually want to navigate to the top of Mount Tabor. If I take my finger and I long press on the top of Mount Tabor, our app quickly generates a route that takes me from my current location to the top of Mount Tabor, again using the roads that are safest for cycling. I tap Update Navigation. Okay. And that's now the route that I'm navigating instead of the one that was originally sitting in there. Next thing I want to do is show you how to save or end your active ride recording. And you're going to want to do this at the end of each session. Whether you're recording a ride or navigating a route, what you want to avoid is having a recording running in the background. So make sure you finish and save at the end of each session. To do that, you're going to tap and hold down that orange pause button at the bottom of the screen, bottom middle of the screen. You're going to long press it. All right, and from the menu options here, I'm going to tap where it says Finish Ride at the bottom. That takes you into the ride save form, where you can give it a title, If you don't assign a title, we'll assign the date that the activity was completed. I can add a description if I want, assign an activity type. I can add photos. One cool little thing about that is if you take photos with your phone during a recording session, you can attach those photos to your recording and they'll be geotagged in the specific location that they were taken, which is pretty cool. You can assign gear, which specific bike you use, and you can even select a privacy level like public, private, friends only. So you can decide who can see what's going on here. If you scroll down far enough, you'll reveal the option to delete your activity, which is what I'm going to do. But in the upper right corner, if you want to save it, tap that save option and it'll save it to your route library. I'll hit delete. Okay. All right, that takes us back. Now I want to show you what happens when you start navigation for a planned route, but you are not at the designated start point. I'm going to use my not home to Rocky route as my example. All right, I'll tap that. And as you can see by looking at my blue dot, I'm not on the route line. I'm not anywhere near the route right now, but I just want to head out. I don't feel like opening this up in the route planner, making changes. I just want to head out the front door and go. So I'm going to tap navigate in the lower left. And when I do that, a couple of things pop up. I first want to draw our attention to the off-course alert shown at the very top of my screen. So if during the course of navigation you leave your planned route on purpose or on accident, you're going to hear an audible off-course alert. And I promise you, you'll know when you hear it. It's like an alarm sound. You'll take your phone out, you look at your screen, and you'll see that it says off course. And just underneath where it says off course, in orange, it says tap to route back to course. If I tap that orange sentence, our app is going to generate a route that gets you back to your planned route. We might have you backtrack a little bit. The idea is we want to get you from where you are back to your planned route as quickly and as safely as we can. If you've gone off course on purpose and you don't want the app to yell at you, just to the right of the off course alert is an X, and if you tap that X, it'll clear out the off course alert and allow you to continue riding along until you eventually make your way back to your planned route. Now, I'm going to talk about the Ride From Here menu in just a sec, but one thing I want to clarify is in order for navigation to work in RabbitGPS, it's okay if you're not at the designated start point when you begin navigation. As long as you are on the route line and heading in the direction the route was planned, navigation will pick up from the point that you joined that route forward. Okay? So that brings me to my Ride From Here menu, kind of in the middle of my screen. When you aren't at the designated start point or aren't on the existing route line and you tap navigate, these options will pop up and you have a few different things to choose from. Route to start. That'll create a route with turn-by-turn directions from your current location to the designated start point of the original route you loaded in. Route to nearest point will route you from where you are to the nearest point of the existing route. And start off course will allow you to just record your own activity until you eventually make your way over to that plan route and hop on it. Just for fun here, let me tap route to start. And what happens is, let me zoom out a little bit. You can see this light blue route, which is the route we just generated to take us to the designated start point. And then you have this grayed out route line, which is where the original route I loaded in here actually starts. Once I finish navigating that blue route line and hop onto the gray one, the navigation prompts for that original route will pick up from that point on forward. So again, if you don't feel like taking the time to change the start or move things around in your mobile route planner before you head out, you don't have to. Simply hit navigate and select one of those Ride From Here options, and that'll get you what you need. Okay, let me end my recording here. Let's scroll down and delete. All right. So what I want to talk about now is how to use the mobile route planner to create routes of your own. Now there's two ways to get to your mobile route planner. One is from the home screen. If you look at the quick access menu bar at the very top, you'll see the route planner. You can also get there by tapping more in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and tapping where it says route planner right in the middle. All right, so now I'm in the route planner, and this is sort of the medium I'm going to use to create a route from scratch on my own. Now I'm going to show you the two main methods you can use to create routes in just a sec, but before I do, I think it's really helpful to understand how our route planning algorithm works, sort of by default. When you create a route in RabbitGPS, our route planning algorithm is looking for which roads to stick you on based on two main bits of information. The first thing it's looking for is there bicycle infrastructure? So while you're creating a route, if there is a bike path, bike trail, a nationally recognized cycling network, the route planner is going to look for those roads or trails over the other options it sees. The other thing it's looking for is where do people ride their bikes most frequently? The more frequent bicycle traffic a particular road or trail gets, the more likely it is that we're going to use that road or trail over the other options. What you end up with, and you'll hear me, you've already heard me say this a couple times, is the route planner is going to stick you on the roads that are safest for cycling. But I think it's important to know sort of how that works on the back end there. One other thing before I actually go through and create this route, I wanted to mention that you can fine tune your routing algorithm a little bit by the type of surface you plan on riding. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of my route planner, you'll see this white circle with a little cyclist in there. I think I said bottom left-hand corner, but just make sure everybody knows. Bottom left-hand corner, cycling icon, tap that, and you'll see a couple of other options. This is sort of how you augment the rules of the road while you build your route planner, or while you build your route. Right now, cycling any surface is selected, and this is definitely the best default routing algorithm to have. It'll look for that bike infrastructure and where people ride most often, like I mentioned earlier, but it'll sort of ambivalently hop between paved and unpaved based on what makes the most sense for your route. Having said that, this will still more heavily prioritize paved roads. Cycling paved is going to opt for paved roads that allow cycling over any of the other options in the area. And then the other one just above that is unpaved. That's going to look for unpaved roads that allow cycling traffic and opt to use those over the other options. You have walking, which will follow the rules of the road for pedestrian traffic. You have driving, which will follow the rules of the road for automobile traffic. And then you have draw lines. That feature ignores the base map data and allows you to connect points together using straight lines. You wouldn't want to use that extensively. This would be something you'd use if for whatever reason you know that there's a road in real life and it doesn't appear in our mapping service. You can temporarily switch to draw lines to bypass that routing issue. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but I just wanted to explain what that option is. So again, I'm going to select any surface and that'll be the option I choose. Two methods for creating routes. The first method I'm going to show you is the tap as you go method. This is where we're going to tap where we want the route to start, and we'll tap along the roads that we want to use. Each time we tap, we're going to be building a route that has turn-by-turn directions. So I'm going to zoom in nice and close, tap where I want my route to begin. That first tap adds the start icon. And then from here, I'm going to tap along the roads that I want to use. And each time I tap, a route line is created for me, connecting these points together and generating a cue sheet as I actually go through here and start to plan. Let me zoom in a little bit and tap along here. Okay, so if you are tapping as you go to build your route, there's two main things that you need to be aware of. The first, or rather, the two things that you need to be conscious of. The first is your zoom levels. I've zoomed out pretty far here just to show you that it's pretty tough to ensure that I'm tapping on the specific road I want to use here and not one that's running parallel to the one that I'm interested in. You don't need to zoom in all the way, just close enough to ensure that you are accurately tapping on the specific roads that you want to use. Now, the other thing that you need to be aware of, and I would say this is probably the more important thing to remember, is you never want to tap in the middle of an intersection. Instead, tap just past intersections in the desired direction of travel, kind of like how I'm doing here. So I'm going to make a right turn, tap past that right turn or past that intersection in the direction I want to go. Now I want to take this back to the original road I was using, tap past the intersection in the direction I want to go, and everything works the way that I want. All right. The reason you don't want to tap in the middle of an intersection is when you do that, the route planner has a hard time of telling which direction you plan on moving in, and every once in a while that can result in a missing or incorrect cue sheet entry. But again, tapping just past intersections in the direction you want to go will ensure that your route line is nice and accurate and your cue sheet is accurate too. Now you can keep your taps pretty close together as I've done through here, or you can space them out based on how familiar you are with the area and how specific you want to be while you're actually going through and creating your route. And now I've gone all the way to the end, and I have a nice completed route that takes me from my home all the way to the top of Rocky Butte. In the bottom right-hand corner of my route planner, you're going to see this curved back arrow and a curved forward arrow. Those tools are super important. They're your undo and redo buttons. The curved back arrow will undo your most recent edit, take you one edit into the past. The redo button will redo your most recent edit. These are great tools because making a small mistake doesn't mean you have to recreate your route from scratch. Tap that undo button and that'll take you one edit into the past. All right, now I'm going to clear my map and I'm going to walk us through the other method that you can use to create a route. This is what I would call the jump to method. This is where you're telling the route planner, hey, I want to start here, I want to end here, connect those 2 points together using the roads that are safest for cycling. This method utilizes the search box at the top of the screen. So I'm going to tap in here. And when you do that, you're always going to see two options shown by default. Your current location, where you are right now, and your home location, which is your actual home address. You can enter any address you want into the search box, and that'll work just fine. Usually that's the most accurate way for us to find what you're looking for. But you can also enter a place name. Maybe there's the name of a local coffee shop or a local bike shop that you want to route to. Plug that in, we'll probably find that for you as well. But again, addresses work best. I'm going to use my current location, so I tap that. The route planner puts a marker over my current location, and from the menu options down below, I have the option to start route here, which I'll tap. Okay, that adds a little start icon. Now I'm going to head back to the search box at the top, and I'm going to enter my desired destination, which will be the Rocky Butte Natural Area. Okay, there it is. I'll tap that. Now the route planner jumps over to Rocky Butte, and from the menu options down below, I have the option to route to here, which I'll tap. And as you can see, that connects those 2 points together quick and easy using the roads that are safest for cycling. But let's say, after the top of Rocky Butte, I want to continue, and I have a couple of specific roads in mind that I want to use. All right, I'm going to tap along those roads I want to use. Everything's looking great so far. I'm going to keep it going a little bit. Okay, now I'm tired of tapping as I go, and I just want to jump over to Vancouver, Washington. Head to the search box up top. Type in Vancouver, Washington. Tap where that's listed. Now we jump over to Vancouver with an option to route to here, which I'll tap. So I'm really just using this as an opportunity to show you that you can always hop back and forth between tapping as you go to build your route or jumping from location to location. Typically, when I build a route from scratch, I do like a 50-50 mix of both of these methods. I tap along the roads I want to use when I'm familiar with the area and know where I want to go. And then I jump from location to location when I'm less familiar with the area and I just want to connect 2 points together. You can always hop back and forth. Next thing I want to show you is how to edit your route line. Let's say this route looks pretty good. I still want to start at home. I still want to go to the top of Rocky Butte, except I want to go to Mount Tabor right in the middle here. So I want to divert my course to head to Mount Tabor and then onward to my previously selected destination. What I'm going to do is zoom in nice and close. And at roughly the point at which I plan on changing things up, I'm going to tap the route line. A couple of menu options will pop up. I'm going to use the move option at the bottom of my screen. That adds this little crosshairs option. And if I pan the map, so that crosshairs is resting on the alternate road I want to go to, this little blue line preview will pop up to show me what this potential edit's going to look like. And if this looks good to me, I tap confirm move. And that officially changes my route line to head to Mount Tabor and then onward. It updates my cue sheet accordingly with all of those changes, so I have nice updated directions to follow. All right, now I want to show you some other editing options that you have to choose from. You can access your editing menu. If you look at the search box just to the right of there, there's that white circle with the S curve made up of dashed lines. Tap that, and you'll see a couple of other options. Change start allows you to change the start point of an existing route. Change end, same thing, you can change the end point of an existing route. Out and back. If you have a point-to-point route like I have here, starts at point A, ends at point B, but you want to make it a round trip, meaning that we go from point A to point B all the way back to point A using the same roads out as back in. That's a really nice option, takes care of it all for you. Reverse route. Let's say that you have a loop route that goes clockwise, but you plan on navigating it counterclockwise. If you hit reverse route, we're going to rebuild that route for you in the opposite direction so you can navigate it in the direction you actually want to go. Little side note on that, when you use the reverse route tool, we're still going to try our best to maintain the structure of the original route and just change the direction. But if, for example, the original route, if we maintained the exact structure and just reversed it, if doing that would send you the wrong way down a one-way street, you'd see us divert course a little bit. But again, we're still going to try our best to maintain the structure of the original route. Okay, add custom POI. This is a cool one to actually cover. So POI, points of interest, are these nice little visual markers that you can add to the map to call out something important along the way. Let's say, for example, that I want to call out some potential water sources along the way of my route. Realistically, I don't need to do that in Portland because there's going to be plenty of water stops for me to choose from. But let's pretend that I was planning a more, longer route where resupply for water specifically is pretty important. And I want to see where they're marked out on the map so I can decide in the moment whether I need to go there or not. I'll tap where it says Add Custom POI. Pulls up a list of all of the different icons you can choose from. We have a little water icon, which I'll select. We're going to ask that you give it a title. So I'll say water stop. You can add a description if you want. I'm going to tap Add Custom POI. There's that crosshairs menu from before, or crosshairs icon from before. And I'm going to pan this over so it's resting exactly on where I want to add this point of interest. Now I'm going to tap Set Location. And you can see that little point of interest icon added to the map, and I'll actually see that during navigation so I can tell if there's something important along the way and can decide in the moment whether I need to head to it or not, which is really great, especially if you're calling out water sources that you might need, you may not use them, but you just want to know that they're there. So yeah, great way to customize your route and call out something important along the way. And the last two options here are change route color. That allows you to select a route color for your route other than red. View Queue Sheet allows you to preview the queue sheet. If this route looks good to me, from here, I'm going to tap Done in the lower right-hand corner, and then tap Save, and this will officially save it to my route library. I'll give it a title, all that stuff. Now, before I end today, I wanted to show you a couple of our different map layers and overlay options you can choose from. These can be turned on whether you're in the route planner or viewing a route, or even when you're recording a ride or navigating a route. Your map layer menu is in the bottom, it's sort of in the left-hand corner of your screen, just above the cycling icon. There's like a white circle made up of like stacked squares. And if you tap that, these are all the different options you can choose from. Let's talk about global heat maps real fast. Let me turn this one on. I'm going to return to my map. The global heat map shows you a visual representation of where people ride their bikes most frequently. This data is coming directly from publicly recorded rides within RabbitGPS. And the idea is the deeper and darker the route line, or the line that's running through here, the deeper and darker the color of purple, the more frequent bicycle traffic that particular road or trail gets. So if I'm zooming in here, this sort of strange squiggly oval we're looking at is one of the most popular cycling roads in Portland. People run laps on it on their lunch break, and just in looking at the heat map, I can tell. It's got the deepest and darkest heat map signature in the area. If we zoom in a little bit, there's this road running right in the middle. It has a slightly lighter color of purple, which tells me that it's still getting bicycle traffic, but comparatively, it's not quite as popular as that main road we were looking at. This is a really great way to sort of visually, quickly see where the most popular roads are and plot along them accordingly. Let me turn that one off. You can have heat maps for your personal rides or for personal routes that you've created as well. Let's talk about our layers menu real fast. Highlights. This shows you community added points of interest. So these are actually added by the folks who live in Portland, so you can see what the locals are actually calling out in case you want to include that in your own route planning, or maybe you want to plan around some of the POI that are listed here, which is pretty cool. Turn that off. MTB trail ratings. Let me actually show you some MTB areas. This calls out mountain bike specific infrastructure, and it actually lets you know the difficulty by the color coding here. It's really nice to be able to see that at a quick first glance, and that'll allow you to make that happen. See, there's a couple of other options to choose from. Then we have unpaved site, or actually let's do US Canada wildfires. So unfortunately, this is a brand new, so not unfortunately, but this is a brand new layer. Unfortunately, it's super, super useful, especially in the summer when we're having lots of seasonal forest fires out here out west. Turn this on. This is specific to US and Canada, but if you pan around here, you can see active forest fires being called out on the map. You can even see some of the boundaries of these, which again is useful to see if the area you're planning on riding through is actually rideable right now or not, based on, where the fire's at and what's happening with that. Let's see, let me turn this one off for now. We have unpaved cycling. This will show you in beige anywhere that has unpaved surfaces that allow cycling traffic. Before, you couldn't see surface type until you actually created your route. This allows you to see it ahead of time so you can opt to use it or avoid it based on your own personal riding preferences. And then we have air quality. And this sort of running in tandem with the wildfires layer is unfortunately very important right now. We just so happen to be having a lot of very, very intense and terrible wildfires right now. And you can actually see exactly where they are happening based on the air quality index that's popping up here. So luckily it's not too bad in Portland today, but if you look all over the place, there's some pretty bad sections right now where the air quality is very poor due to all the smoke that's popping up. This, in addition to having that wildfire layer on, is a really great way to get a better sense, especially this time of year, whether you're able to pop out and ride without having to inhale too much smoke and that sort of thing. We have snow depth. This is specific to the US right now, but this will show you snow depth in real time. You can see some in Mount Rainier, some snow cover at the top of Mount Rainier. If this was the dead of winter, you see a lot more of this like dark brown and purple snow coverage. And then you also have US cell coverage. I won't turn that one on right now, but that shows you US cell coverage by provider. So you can see in the areas that you're looking or planning on riding and whether you can do something like make out a phone call. You can change your map types here. We have a whole bunch of different map types or map views in Rabbit GPS that you can switch back and forth on. I'd recommend playing around with these so you can see which one you like the most. In terms of offline usage, Rabbit GPS Cycle, RWGPS Cycle, is the only one available for offline use at the moment. And then lastly, we have overlays, which allow you to select different information to overlay on top of your route line or map to call out different bits of information. I won't go into that in too much detail right now, but just wanted to let you know that it was there. So that is a pretty solid overview of the Rabbit. Thanks everybody for taking the time to pop in here and take a look at this. If anybody has any questions, you are more than welcome to email me at Dylan, that's DYLAN, @ridewithgps.com, and I'll be very happy to help you out. Thanks.